Let's talk a little football, especially cheerleaders. There they are, the Buffalo Bills cheerleaders. They're called the Jills. How about this? They're filing a lawsuit against the team. They're basically saying they work hundreds of hours for very little pay, and we're going to show you it could be a net loss for them. Now, some of you think, and my producer Robin, who was in charge of this story, her initial reaction was, wait a minute, you knew what you were signing up for. Here's Robin.
Do not try out. It is your choice. Do it or don't do it. Shut up.
Oh, how about that? But Robin, again, she did a little research, and her tune changed like that. As you look at the lawsuit and what it's all about, here's the bottom line. 4 former members of the Jills are suing the Bills. And when you get into it, and I'm telling you, my tune changed as well. Yeah, they get little pay, but beyond that, there's some degrading stuff going on here. Here's a couple of the plaintiffs. Let's listen.
We had always dreamed since we were little girls of becoming Buffalo Bills cheerleaders. And unfortunately, it was, anything but an amazing experience.
Everything from standing in front of us with a clipboard and having us do a jiggle test to see how, what parts of our body were jiggling.
We want the community, all the Bills fans out there to see what we went through, to see what we did off the field, because they're there on Sundays cheering on the Bills like we were on the field, but they don't see what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, like the jiggle test. How about that? One other note, the management company that runs the Jills, kind of sublet it out by the team, they've suspended operation. The Bills organization, they haven't commented on all this. But we have someone with some unique expertise that can comment on this, a former Indianapolis Colt cheerleader, Andrea Farrell. Andrea, thanks for being with us. First off, let's just say you didn't have a bad experience with the Colts, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So your experience was a good one. So you hear about this story and you see some of their complaints and what they went through. Do you cheer them on in this lawsuit? You think they're right on with it?
Actually, I don't. I would have to disagree in this case because the organization really does stand behind and support the ladies of the NFL. And in my situation, we did have a lot of hours that we had to put in. However, those expectations were clearly managed on the front end. It was outlined in your contract what was expected as far as practices, appearances, how you were paid for that time, how you would be compensated for gym time, hair care, physical appearance. All of that was clear.
Got it. So you knew what you were getting into. Well, let's go through some of the more shocking things that they're alleging here and get your take on it. And it's really demeaning stuff. The jiggle test. Basically, the way they lay it out in the lawsuit, you do jumping jacks, and someone is standing there scrutinizing if your stomach, arms, legs, hips, or butt start to jiggle. Too much jiggling, you're benched. What do you think of that? Did you have to go through that?
No, we didn't go through the jiggle test per se, but you were monitored on your physical appearance. They did provide you with a trainer. You were expected to complete, so many workouts every single week. And if you did not look the part on game day, you could be pulled and not work that game on the field. However, again, that was a very clear expectation. All of the ladies knew that going into it, and it was outlined every single week that come Sunday, come game time, you needed to be in your best shape possible because we all know what that uniform looks like.
Yeah. Does something like a jiggle test, just even those words, offend you at all? What are your thoughts on that?
It really does offend me, and I'm kind of surprised that, that language would be used.
Yeah.
Again, just going back to the expectation of, what we had to look like from an appearance standpoint. And you needed to be toned and you needed to be fit. So all I can say is for the Indianapolis Colts organization that those terminology, that language was never used or directed toward us.
Here's one, and this is another thing that it got me fired up, to be honest with you. It's a degrading allegation concerning basically mandatory off-game or unpaid events. And it was a golf event as the example they used. We'll get your take on it. They had to wear a bikini. Now they had to get into a dunk tank as well. So now they're in a wet bikini at this golf event. They were auctioned off as prizes, so they were a bought person. And then part of that was they had to ride around in the golf cart with the person that had bought them. How many seats in a golf cart? 2. That person was a third, so they'd have to sit in the lap of the guy. There was flips for tips to amuse the crowd, it sounds like. And then they wouldn't even get any of the tip money. All of that, to me, sounds way over the edge. Have you ever heard of any of this, Andrea?
Well, I will agree with you that that is definitely demeaning and degrading to any female. However, again, with the organization I was a part of, I never experienced that, nor did I ever hear of that. But we were expected to do so many free appearances before we were paid. And again, we were not compensated for certain events or appearances. We always knew what we had to wear before each event. And if the lady wasn't comfortable with what they were to wear before that event, you could easily opt out. Going back to the number of appearances, though, you did have an expectation that was outlined on how many you were to do. But again, that's something that I put back on the person that's in that position, where she should stand up and say, in that moment, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not going to put myself in this situation. It's degrading and demeaning, and I'm going to remove myself from it, and I'll do a different appearance on a different date. And I can't believe that any coach or cheer manager would have an issue with that. So I'm a little surprised and would love to see what that organization's response is to those comments.
Yeah, good point there. So it sounds like some of the degrading stuff, you obviously didn't have that issue with the Colts. You had a much better experience. And as far as the money goes, it sounds like, well, you know what you're getting into. So on a money front, it's like, up front. Hey, Andrea, thanks again for your unique insight.